This is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, where we talk about districts 5 and 6 week in, week out here in the great state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney. Our East Idaho expert is Sean Kane. Sean, what's going on?
Well, school started, sports are in full swing. It's a nice little August we have here. Nice little thing.
So Sean is a teacher at Century High School in Pocatello. Today, we're recording this Wednesday night, August 23rd. You're going to hear this first thing Thursday, August 24th. Today was your first day officially in school with students, right?
With students, yeah. First day with students, assembly, and go around, check out your classes for not a normal amount of time. But yeah, just kind of getting the swing of things. I noticed a nice kind of like buzz, like kids are kind of, kids aren't necessarily excited to be at school, but I think I think we're finally getting back into the swing of things, right? Have we said that 1,000 times? But,
right.
Post COVID and stuff, I think we've got those kind of routines and that structure set. And I think people enjoy it. And, I do, I like to go back. I'm just excited. And excited to see all the kids and stuff, and I think it's been great. I'm glad we're just more in a normal track. It's just us at the school at Century this year. Highland reopened, so that's good for them. I'm glad they're able to go back to their school, and their sporting teams are spread across the good part of the Pocatello area, but they're still getting it done too. So it's been nice to get back into the swing.
Yeah, and it took you exactly one day of being in school with students to get sick, right?
Yeah, I've got a little sniffles here, but I think I got it from my own children. My old children were kind of had it this weekend, so don't write down little sniffles as the title.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
I knew it. I think I got it from them, but I very rarely get sick, so hopefully I feel better now than I did this morning. But yeah, I'll just keep on trucking, just like the East Idaho sports train is going to this weekend.
That's right. That's a good transition to talk about what happened last week, where we had soccer competition, we had football, golf, of course, has been off and running for some time, and now we get into volleyball and even cross country this week. Well, let's start with football. That was the big story. East Idaho, kind of a mixed bag in week 0. They played 6 teams played, 3 got wins. Actually, 7 teams played, 3 got wins, 4 came away with losses. And I guess actually one was an East Idaho versus East Idaho. So really it was 8 teams played, 3 won, 5 lost. Anyways, I don't know the math. Three teams were victorious. That's all you need to know. Let's start with, I'm sure you're going to be really shocked to hear this one, Sugar-Salem. Sugar-Salem, in a game that was on IdahoSports.com, hosted Century, little 3A versus 4A matchup. Diggers pitched the shutout 43-0. They rushed for 282 yards as a team. Carson Harris had 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's what Sugar's going to do all year. It's going to be running back by committee. It's going to be Carson Harris piling up yardage and then giving way to younger players. Sugar played great defense, pitched the shutout. The IdahoSports.com player of the game was actually on defense, Ryan Bingham. He had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and a blocked punt. So all in all, just another day at the office for the Diggers.
Yeah, I mean, no surprises. They're going for the 4 in a row, right? If they were able to bring it back, the kind of an elusive 4-peat. So that would be quite a thing for Sugar-Salem, and I think what we saw this last week is they're a team that could possibly do it.
Yeah, I mean, you run out of platitudes to say when describing what Sugar-Salem does. Great team win for Century. We knew it was going to be kind of a tough year for them with lower numbers in the junior and senior classes, big freshman class that we talked about. But for the Diamondbacks, I think they saw some positives. Deegan Crabtree started under center for Century. He had 87 passing yards. And there'll be brighter days ahead for Century. I mean, starting with Sugar-Salem is a tough way to start.
Yeah, I think, you talked about all the offense, but I like that the Sugar-Salem player, the defensive player got it, because in watching Sugar-Salem, I think that's what really stands out is their defense is just top notch and doesn't allow anything. Yeah, it was a high scoring game, but I guarantee the defense was putting on a show, even though, they don't get as much acclaim, but that defense flies around. They're a strong program, even at the 3A level. They could play with a lot of other levels of football across the state for sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they did in the 4A Southeast Idaho Conference. That's for sure. So, yeah, Sugar starts the year 1-0. Also picking up a win was Malad. Malad went to American Falls. This was a 2A versus 3A matchup, and just like Sugar got the win over the larger opponent, so did Malad. They win 12-6. Braylon Tripp throws a 24-yard touchdown pass in the second quarter, and it was 6-0 Malad for a really long time. We get to the fourth. Malad scores again. Now they're up 12-0. American Falls tries to rally. There's a minute 20 left. Dax Brower finds his brother Bo Brower for a 36-yard touchdown. Beavers are within a score at 12-6. They try to get the onside kick. It fails, but they do force the punt from Malad. American Falls gets the ball back with 12 seconds. Desperation heave, falls incomplete. Malad gets a 12-6 win. And I'll be honest, I was pretty high on American Falls coming into the season. I still am, but maybe we should be as high on Malad.
And I think if we went back and looked at the tape, I think you were also kind of big on Malad too. So I think you did say Malad was going to be was a team to watch. So kind of two teams that have been kind of on the back burner, both kind of stepping up. And I mean, 12-6, you have a chance to win at the end of anyone's game.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really fun, low-scoring affair for sure. The third team that got a win on opening weekend was Grace. They played El Capitan, Arizona. I'll be honest, I don't know much about El Capitan, Arizona. I tried looking them up online. I couldn't find anything about them having a football team in the past or anything, so I'm not sure what their situation is. I know this game got added late to the schedule, but Grace gets a 34-16 win. That's about all I can tell you. I think it's Grace kind of infamously, says we just play solid team ball, and I guess that's
I
don't want to know, right?
They don't have like a Twitter, they don't have an Instagram, they're not TikToking.
No.
You just all you get is W's on Fridays, and that's what we get to say. Grace won, and they were great last year, and if you can go into week 0 and come away with a win, I think that's good. Get that extra week of practice and kind of work out the kinks. So, good job by Grace.
Yeah, nice job by the Grizzlies to start 1-0. All right, now let's talk about the other side of it, the East Idaho teams that weren't able to come through. For the most part, a lot of the games were close and competitive. Let's start with, I think we have to start with the game I was at, not because, I'm better than anybody, but just because this was the story of the week, not just in East Idaho, but statewide. Rigby playing Coeur d'Alene in this neutral site game at the University of Montana. Rigby has gone 42-5 the last 4 seasons. They shut out Coeur d'Alene 24-0 last year. They bring back Luke Flowers, the 5A player of the year and future University of Montana quarterback, 4 of 5 starters on the offensive line. And it's Coeur d'Alene who dominates this thing from start to finish in a 27-21 victory. Just tell me, what was your reaction as you were checking in on the score, as you were broadcasting?
Oh, man, I've got a great story. And we'll get to the game I was at, but I was at Thunder Ridge High School, and I was working the camera in the second half, and the guy next to me was watching you guys watching that game at the Thunder Ridge game. And he's like, man, this is a good game. And I'm like putting my mic away so I could listen in, and he could keep me updated on it. But really, like, it really wasn't close until the end, right? I mean, pretty much Coeur d'Alene dominated, and that everyone was kind of tuning in at the end because Rigby was making a little bit of a comeback. But I was kind of surprised. I think I think most of Idaho was probably surprised that result. A Coeur d'Alene team that has been at the top for many years, kind of working the way back up to it, but a great win. But yeah, it was pretty funny. But the guy next to me said I was doing a better job than you guys, but I don't know.
You know what happened? This is going to be super funny. In broadcasting, you always have to remember to bring all your equipment with you to cover the game. And so I'm 3 hours from home. It's not like I can just run home and grab a piece of gear if I'm missing it. I forgot. Here, I'm going to zoom out. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. I packed all the gear on Friday. I'm getting ready to drive to Missoula. I live in Coeur d'Alene now, and I forgot right here my headsets. I had no headset to broadcast with. So the audio was not great. You could still hear what I was saying, but rookie move on my part. And so, yes, I'm sure your broadcast was much better than mine. I guarantee it. But for the game itself, I was stunned. And I'll be honest, anybody outside of the walls of Coeur d'Alene High that said they thought the Vikings were going to win is lying. They're lying.
I would agree.
Everybody thought, oh, go ahead.
That was everyone. They're like, who's winning? Oh, Coeur d'Alene. And like everyone, all the guys up in the stands, probably coaches of football, of Little League and stuff, are like, what? Everyone was like that. And then me, I'm like, what? So it was surprising. But I mean, not really surprising with the pedigree that Coeur d'Alene brings, right? I mean, I think at that aspect, I think Coeur d'Alene's always brings. They're not coming down to lose anywhere. I don't think they're willing to travel. That's just a team. I'm not surprised that they were able to come up with the win, but I mean, I wouldn't have predicted the win for sure.
Yeah, basically this came down to me. It was pretty simple. Coeur d'Alene ran the ball extremely well. Their running back Carson Spielman had close to 150 yards, and Rigby conversely could not run the ball at all, which was really surprising to me considering they brought back so many starters on the offensive line. That Coeur d'Alene defense is no joke. They pick off Luke Flowers 4 times. And like I said, the game wasn't really close until the end when Rigby rallied late. And at the same time, Coeur d'Alene had the ball inside Rigby's 10-yard line 4 different times, Sean, and came away empty 4 times. So it could have been a lot worse too. So
yeah, just a lot of peaks and valleys in that one.
Yeah, I think Rigby's going to be fine. I think this is a really good loss for them because they're going to refocus and reset now. And I would not want to face Rigby the rest of the way because they're going to be a tough out. But
no, I can't imagine Armando Gonzalez will be happy with that result by any means, and he'll have that team ready to go. And like you said, sometimes that's good. They'd much rather lose to Coeur d'Alene now than later in the fall,
Yes. So we will wait and see. Let's talk about the game you were at. Thunder Ridge hosting Minico in a 5A versus 4A showdown. Minico gets a 28-14 victory. What did you see from the Titans specifically, since this is an East Idaho Prepcast?
Oh yeah, Thunder Ridge has a great quarterback, Moss, and they have a great complement of receivers in Hudson Harker, and they can really pass the ball. The problem in that game, Thunder Ridge just wasn't quite able to to run the ball. If they were able to run the ball, it would have been much closer, or they could have even won, because towards the second half of the game, Minico could really just kind of bear down that they had to run the ball. And Thunder Ridge wanted to come out and do a little more running, but the Minico defense was good. But Thunder Ridge they can pass the ball when it gets down to nitty gritty. They're a team that can spread that ball and pass it, and they're not going to be an easy out for any team. And also their defense is pretty good as well, and did a lot of good things. But yeah, it was just a kind of a tough game. It was kind of close the whole game, kind of like last year, and Minico kind of held a little more and got one late touchdown and kind of stopped any kind of comeback from Thunder Ridge towards the end.
Yeah, it sounds like similar to the Rigby game. The team that ran the ball most effectively was the team that came out of there with the win. So we'll see if Thunder Ridge can shore things up there. The third game that we had on IdahoSports.com, if you're a fan of 5A football in East Idaho, we had all three games, Rigby, Thunder Ridge, and also Madison hosting Owyhee. Madison actually took the lead in this contest. Barkley Beck scored on a short touchdown run, and then it was a 7-3 lead for Madison, and then there was kind of this deluge of points from Owyhee. The big play was Gage Hawes taking a pick six back for a touchdown. They end up falling 24-17. For Madison, I think turnovers were a problem. And for the second year in a row, they lose a very close game with Owyhee that could have playoff implications down the road.
Yeah, we saw that last year. Yeah, I think for Madison, it's going to be the turnovers, right? The turnovers is what's, I think, going to kind of make or break them this year. You're not going to be able to have, especially in the conference Madison plays in with Rigby, Highland, and Thunder Ridge. Very difficult to turn the ball over and beat high quality teams.
Yeah. So the High Country Conference goes 0-3 in the opening weekend, but the nice thing is you can turn the page pretty quickly and get ready for the next slate of games. So let's talk about what's coming up this week in terms of football. Now that we're in week one, Sean, we're going to see just about everybody competing here. Let's start with the 5A classification, and then we will work our way down. As we look here, the matchups that we see are obviously the Rocky Mountain Rumble, huge event coming to Madison. I guess we can talk about that first on its own. IdahoSports.com is going to be broadcasting the Rocky Mountain Rumble. Once again, we are going to be broadcasting all 7 games. Actually, there's an 8th game that's taking place at Rigby. So 7 of the games are going to be at Madison High School in Rexburg. An 8th game will be at Rigby High School as well. The Rocky Mountain Rumble is a great tradition in the state of Idaho, and here's the schedule. The first game on Friday will feature Marsh Valley, a team that's making its season debut under second-year head coach Jeff Belknap. They will play the Comets from Raymond, Alberta, Canada. We're getting a team from north of the border coming down to the Rocky Mountain Rumble, Sean.
It's the premier Northwest event in football is from what I understand.
That's right. Teams from Utah, California, and Canada this year. Marsh Valley really struggled last year, but they've got a lot of dynamic athletes, a lot of speed to burn. I'm going to be really interested to see Marsh Valley. They play Friday at 11 a.m. Then at 2 o'clock, it's Minico, a team you saw last week. They're going to play Desert Hills, Utah. Then we've got really the meat and potatoes here. 5 o'clock Friday night from Madison, Skyline, the 3-time defending 4A state champs, will play Layton, Utah, the Lancers. Layton is year in, year out one of the toughest teams in the state of Utah. This is going to be a fun matchup Friday night at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, last year it wasn't the same teams, right? But man, the matchups are always phenomenal. I'm real interested to see Skyline.
I mean, they lost a lot to graduation, but spoiler alert, they've got some really good underclassmen. Carmine Garcia, Amani Morel, both are, poised for big things for Skyline this year. Then we've got the 7 o'clock game at Rigby. Rigby is going to take on Lehigh, Utah. Lehigh is a phenomenal team year in, year out as well. That's going to be a very tough matchup for Rigby. If the Trojans went 0-2, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because 2 really good opponents. And then at 8 o'clock back at Madison, we have Highland taking on Skyline, not that Skyline.
Yeah.
Skyline, Utah, from Salt Lake City. That's going to be a fantastic matchup too.
Yeah. And that Skyline team's always a very good team from Utah as well, right?
Yes.
They're very good. So just great matchups to start your season and see where your teams are at and all that jazz, man. That's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, and a friendly reminder, the state of Utah starts their season early on to the point that most of these teams already have 2 games under their belts. And for Idaho, I mean, some of them are going to be making their season debut. So the Rumble typically favors the out-of-state opponents. Last year, I think only 2 teams from Idaho won at the Rumble, so don't read too much into that. Then we get into the Saturday schedule, Sean. Sugar-Salem is going to play at 1 o'clock on Saturday against Templeton, California. All right. Chance for the Diggers to take down a team from California.
I mean, if there's a team in Idaho that can, it's Sugar-Salem. That'll be my statement. Yeah, that's a long trip, but I like it.
Yeah, that is a very long trip for Templeton, California. I wonder if they flew out. I'd have to look. Then at 4 o'clock, you're going to have Lewiston. They're going to play Woods Cross, Utah. And then at 7 o'clock Saturday night, of course, Madison, the host school. They will play the Wasps from Wasatch Academy in Utah. So
just great matchups.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see if these teams from East Idaho can bounce back. So that's the Rocky Mountain Rumble. Non-Rumble contests. We'll start with the 5A, 4A slate in Idaho. I'll go through the game, Sean. You tell me which one is most intriguing to you. We have Preston at Bonneville. We have Hillcrest at Century. We have Pocatello at Mountain Crest, Utah. So they're traveling south to play the Mustangs from Mountain Crest. We have Emmett at Blackfoot. And we have Star Valley at Shelley, Idaho Falls at Thunder Ridge as well. So which of those games is most intriguing to you?
You know, I don't want to say the game I'm going to be doing, but I'm really intrigued to see Hillcrest. They're playing Century, and there's a lot of buzz about Hillcrest this year. And I didn't get to see them live last year. I saw them play Pocatello High School on film last year, and so I'm really excited to kind of see this Hillcrest team and see what they're all about this year, because there's a lot of people are very big on them. They've got a lot of pieces. They've been there for a number of years now, and I'm pretty excited to see them. So I think that it could be a lopsided game, but I think it'll be interesting to see that Hillcrest team. I'm also interested to see Pocatello Thunder too. They're not playing at Idaho school, but they've gotten some high ranking from coaches polls and things too. So when teams get those high rankings, you want to see what they got out on the field,
Yeah, so a couple things. Hillcrest at Century is going to be our East Idaho game night on IdahoSports.com. Sean, you will have the call for that game. Hillcrest was picked second in our preseason coaches poll in the High Country Conference, only behind Skyline. So yeah, Brennan Mossholder in his 3rd year there at Hillcrest doing great things with that night's program. Pocatello is going to be fun to watch. They've got Drake Contreras back at quarterback. Of course, he missed a lot of last year with injuries. Hunter May had to step in and be the quarterback. He's now back at wide receiver. They've got the electrifying Riken Echo Hawk at running back. And big news when I email every coach in the state for our season previews, and have them fill out a little preseason questionnaire. And we always have a section that says, new impact players that could help your program. And Pocatello coach Dave Spillett put Julian Bowie, wide receiver, senior. So Bowie, of course, he's a great basketball player for Pocatello High. He's going to play at Boise State in college. He played on the semifinal team in football as a sophomore. Didn't come out last year, is coming out this year, which is huge for Pocatello.
Yeah, and he also is playing golf too. So he's a pretty busy guy. So yeah, it'll be. I mean, there's a lot of people coming back to that Thunder team. East Idaho, as far as 4A, has got some really, really strong teams. Skyline, Hillcrest, and the Thunder. You've got a lot of strong teams that I'm just kind of excited to see get out the gates. And you can read all you want about them, but till you go out and see them play, it's a whole different thing.
Definitely. I will mention as well, Preston is going to play at Bonneville. The Indians did lose their season opener to Lakeland, but Preston's starting quarterback got injured pretty early on in the contest, and they had to go to a freshman backup off the bench who actually came in and played pretty well considering, he was pretty much thrown into the fire. They lose 17-7. So Reggie Larson is the starting quarterback. He's a junior. He left with an injury in the second quarter, and then freshman Carter Perry had to come in. Carter Perry had a pretty scary health bout recently this summer. I believe it was cancer, and he fought that off and is cancer-free and now is playing varsity football as a freshman. And then Carson Winder was really the big guy for Preston in the loss. He had 79 yards rushing, 49 yards receiving, and 3 sacks on defense. Guy was busy.
He's a fantasy dream, right? Fantasy football dream. Yeah, I mean, Preston is I think made a lot of right moves in the right direction for their football program. And again, they play one of those low scoring games against Lakeland in the week 0. It's kind of been a traditional game, and both teams seem to kind of upward trend after that game. So it's probably good to get it on the schedule for both of them. So
yeah, definitely good early season test. The game I'm most excited to see is Emmett at Blackfoot, because Blackfoot lost a lot to graduation, and coaches, I think, recognize that. Blackfoot was picked last in our preseason coaches poll among the High Country Conference teams. They were picked 6th. I really don't think Blackfoot's going to be their demise. I don't think is going to be as great as people say, but I'm interested to see, how do they look with so many new faces? So that to me is the game I'm kind of interested to see what Blackfoot's got together, because just historically they've been a pretty consistent program despite losing players year over year. So that's the game I'm most looking forward to there. Let's dive into 3A, 2A games, Sean. And again, you just tell me which one you think is most intriguing. We've got the annual rivalry game, American Falls at Aberdeen. We have North Fremont at Bear Lake. We have Malad, 1-0, traveling to play Lyman High School in Wyoming. They're a perennial power over there in the Cowboy State. Soda Springs is at Ryrie. Kimberly is at Snake River. We've got Firth at Westside. And then expanding, we've also got Timberlake at South Fremont and Wendell at West Jefferson. Is there a game? I know I just threw a lot at you there.
Oh, no. I mean, I already looked at these games, and the Firth Westside one is right. That's always a classic week 1 game, right? I mean, I think they've always have like last second touchdowns and all kinds of different things. And why would it change, right? That Firth Westside is always it's just a game I think you pencil in any time of the year. So that one immediately jumps out to me.
Yeah, Westside brings back Parker Moser, great running back, Eli Brown, who was the starting quarterback last year. They bring back some pretty good offensive and defensive linemen. Firth lost a lot to graduation. They do bring back a couple of younger linemen. They bring back a really good tight end and a wide receiver that both started down the stretch of last year. So Shook is the tight end, and he started as a sophomore for Firth. Firth always has speedy athletes. I agree. Firth and Westside is going to be fantastic. And then it's almost like this could be like the Final Four in the 2A playoffs. You got Firth and Westside on one side, and then you got North Fremont playing Bear Lake at the other one. Bear Lake won the championship last year, first in school history. They only lost to one team all year. It was North Fremont.
Yeah, that would have been my second one. I'm pretty excited to see what Bear Lake has, and North Fremont they beat a lot of good teams last year, so they're not. When you play all the really hard teams kind of in the same area, it's kind of how it just shakes out. But that should be a phenomenal game as well.
Yeah, I will tell you, I vote in the statewide media poll every week that comes out every Tuesday, and Bear Lake fans are going to hate me for saying this, but I have voted 2 weeks in a row North Fremont as my number 1 team. I really think Coach Ben Lenz has a really good team this year. Bear Lake also has a very good team with Toby Flake returning and Bryson Crane. Big question is who's going to throw on the ball. Tayson Neal graduated, but I think this is going to be a fantastic matchup as well. So that'll be a lot of fun there. And finally, the 8-man slate this week, Sean, we've got Camas County at Rockland, Grace at Cary, North Gem at Castleford. We also have Hanson hosting Water Springs. We have Murtaugh at Chalice. Richfield is at Mackey as well. Butte County is at Valley. And one 3A game, I forgot to mention, Teton making the annual trip over to Jackson High School in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. David Joyce used to be the coach at Jackson, now at Teton. Teton smoked his old school last year, so I would be surprised if the same thing didn't happen this year. Teton's going to be very good again this year. But what's the 8-man game you're most looking forward to watching?
What was the first one you said?
The very first one was Camas County at Rockland.
I think that's the one I saw earlier in the week that I'm kind of intrigued to see that game. I like Rockland, Camas County. I'm just kind of interested to see what both teams will bring to the plate in that one.
Yeah, Camas County brings back a lot of talented players from last year's team. They got to the quarterfinals of the 1A D2 playoffs. Rockland, of course, has won the 1A D2 Rocky Mountain Conference the last 2 years. They've got Teague Matthews, the 6'5" wunderkind that's getting looked at by Boise State, among others. Is he going to be the quarterback? Is he going to be the wide receiver? You'll have to stay tuned and find out. He did both last year for Rockland. Yeah, I think that's going to be a really fun game. The 8-man game that I would circle as one to watch, certainly I think is going to be North Gem at Castleford. These are two teams that finished in second place in their respective conferences last year. North Gem brings back a lot of talented players, including Rusty Hatch and others. Castleford, I'm really intrigued just to see. They had 12 players last year on their team, Sean, total. They called themselves the Dirty Dozen. 8 of those guys were seniors. So I'm like, how's Castleford going to even find enough guys to play? So that's going to be interesting to me, I think.
Yeah, you see that a lot too. Like, Grace Lutheran and Pocatello their basketball team will have, 6 seniors and they have 8 people on the team and it's kind of reloads. So kind of the same thing in football, but yeah, I'm thinking 12, that's not enough, but it's 8-man football. So, but man, you're tired after that.
Yeah, and then 8 of your 12 leave, and you're like, oh man, now what do we do? Yeah. Let's talk soccer real quick before we get out of here. Highland is off to a 3-0 start in boys soccer. They beat Pocatello 2-0, Twin Falls 1-0, Preston 2-0. So Highland outscoring opponents 5-0 early on this season. They are going to have a really interesting test, though. Friday and Saturday, Highland and Madison will host Boise and Timberline. They'll come over on Friday. Highland and Boise will play first at Madison High School in Rexburg, and then the Bobcats will play the Wolves. And then Saturday, we'll flip it, where Highland will play second against Timberline. I believe it's at Iron Horse Stadium in Pocatello. If it's not ready, they might move it to a different site. But Madison will then play Timberline. So this is kind of a fun little quad between these soccer teams this weekend.
Yeah, nice matchups. The Boise teams that Timberline, they're always top competitors at state in boys soccer. So good early season matchups there.
Yeah, Century boys are off to a 2-0 start, Sean. They picked up a couple of early season. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I went and watched a little bit today. I don't just do football, guys.
Did they win? They were playing Shelley.
They scored a goal like in the first 5 minutes against Shelley, but I left before it was over, and I haven't heard yet what the final was. But they were up 1-0 early. But yeah, Shelley looked good. Century boys looked good. I think respectively, I think Shelley will be a good boys team that is kind of under the radar, and I think Century kind of is a little bit under the radar as a boys team, and I think they might have a really good season as well. They've got a lot of good pieces that have come back this year, so it was kind of fun to get out and watch both those teams.
Yeah, Century beat Burley 2-1, beat Marsh Valley 7-0. Ryan Fleischman, the Century coach, is going, can I borrow some of those guys from my football team?
Well, he's got one of them.
A kicker.
Yeah, the sweeper or the last line of defense is Daniel McGee, and He's also the kicker, punter, he does all the kicking for the football team, and he's playing golf, but he didn't play golf today. They played golf in Burley today, so he couldn't do both. But some of the JV kids that made varsity golf played, and so I was talking about they're up in Burley playing golf, but it hadn't finished yet. So that was the first golf news I'd gotten all year. So, but all the stuff was happening today: golf, soccer, pretty exciting.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Shelley as a team to watch. They got a win, 2-0 win over Preston to start the year, and then they battled Sugar-Salem to a tie, a 1-1 tie, and we know how good Sugar-Salem is. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Shelley is going to be a really good boys soccer team to keep an eye on, certainly. In girls soccer, Sean, we talked about last week, Sugar-Salem was going to travel to Sun Valley Community School to play the defending champion Cutthroats. Oh, mama. 10-1, Sugar-Salem wins over the Cutthroats. They beat Preston 8-1. They also beat Shelley on Tuesday night 2-1. So they have outscored their opponents this year 20-3 thus far. They're 3-0.
They could have more points than a lot of the football teams by the end of Friday. You know what I mean? That's for soccer. That's just a ton of points. Yeah, I had to relook that up. That 10-1. I'm shocked because I think we talked about that being a pretty good, kind of a good matchup. But wow. But Sugar-Salem's girls they're always at the one of the top soccer teams, and yeah, it's just I couldn't believe that score.
Yeah. Yeah, up in North
Kind of lost you.
Idaho. We don't have as good of internet as over in
Yeah, you were kind of frozen, but you were smiling at least.
I feel like I smile all the time in case I get frozen. Internet up here in North Idaho is not as good. I miss my fiber internet in Pocatello. I'll tell you that much. Other highlights from the early slate of girls soccer action. Idaho Falls is off to a 1-0 start. Pocatello is 2-0 on the season. And then at the 5A level, really, Thunder Ridge has kind of been the team the last couple of years. They've had a win, a loss, and a draw. They're 1-1. Rigby is off to a 2-0 start, which is great to see. Rigby defeated Skyline 2-1 and Bonneville 3-1. So nice job, Trojans.
Yeah, I think that 5A conference is going to be, as far as girls soccer, I think it's going to be pretty competitive. I wouldn't put all my money on one team early on. I think you're going to see kind of a lot of, they play each team twice typically, and I think you could see a lot of 1-1 matchups. They beat them once, and it's going to come down to that district play.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So before we get out of here, Sean, it is the opening weekend of volleyball competition. We will have a volleyball preview, a written preview up on the site early next week. But I also did a preseason volleyball preview special. It is in your Prepcast feed for the East Idaho Prepcast. You can also watch it at the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel or Facebook page. I broke it down with our volleyball analyst, former Century standout, Lindsay Togiai Afuk. She came on and we talked for over an hour about all of the volleyball players and teams to keep an eye on. So if you're looking for good volleyball content, you can find it there. But this is the opening weekend of competition, and the season always starts with the annual Peg Peterson Memorial Tournament hosted by Highland High School. This is one of the great events of the year.
Yeah, it's just like snow on Christmas, right? you get it, and it's amazing. So yeah, it's always a great tournament. You always have a couple different divisions, right? Usually like a gold, silver, and you have. And what I really like about it is sometimes you get a lot of matchups of different divisions, like sometimes some 4A, 3A, 5A all mixed in there, and you get some matchups you might not ever get in a regular season. You get them in this tournament because everyone travels down. Divisions, classifications don't really matter that much. They put you in the brackets and play. So that's what I really like about the tournament, is kind of that cross play that you may not see in a typical season.
Yeah, now none of these results will count towards anything in terms of official wins or losses or Max Prep's rankings, but it is is a good gauge to see where we kind of went over the history of Peggy Peterson and what she meant to Highland High School and really women's sports in Idaho last year, but we'll kind of revisit it again. She came to Pocatello in 1961 after teaching in South Dakota and working in medical research in Kansas. She taught and coached at Alameda Junior High. That's one of the middle schools in Pocatello, before moving to Highland High School in 1969. Back then, girls athletics wasn't a thing. They were cheerleaders and did home ec. And so she really helped start women's athletics at Highland High School. 35 years at Highland High. She retired in 1995. But she started all of the athletic programs at Highland High School for women. Also at the junior high level. She coached the basketball team at Highland. She won the championship in their first trip to state, and in an 18-year career, she never had a losing record. 240 wins, 57 losses in girls basketball. She single-handedly coached all 15 girls track events for 6 years. So she coached the sprinters, the jumpers, the throwers. She did all of it by herself. She got second place at state with the Highland track and field team. And she qualified for state volleyball in 11 out of 17 years. Overall winning 364 wins, 189 losses. And of course, what she did as a pioneer for women's sports in the state of Idaho. Just what an incredible woman.
Yeah, just a testament to just all that determination and hard work, and a good time to reflect of like when we complain that we don't have things or there's not enough of anything. Just think of what people had to do before to really, get the best out of their athletes. And so I look at it as a good reflection. Like, we don't need this fancy thing. We don't need this new tool. Sometimes you just need good coaches with the players' best interests in mind and the love of the game. And that's kind of what I get out of that, is just, you don't need all this other hoopla. Sometimes you just got to go out, coach, and get the job done, which she did hundreds of times.
Yes, literally 364 times she came out a winner. So that's just phenomenal. So yeah, annual Peg Peterson volleyball tournament this weekend in Highland. Mountain View Event Center is going to have a lot of activity there as well. And they are a sponsor for East Idaho Game Night. So shout out to the Mountain View Event Center. Big supporter of what we're doing here at IdahoSports.com. And that is to shine the spotlight on these great young men and women in our Idaho communities. If there's a story, a team you want us to talk about, you can send me an email, Brandon@IdahoSports.com. All right, Sean, have fun Friday night. Hillcrest at Century on IdahoSports.com goes.
Yeah, you kind of froze out on me again. I think you said the Century Hillcrest game.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said again, I'm super excited to see Hillcrest. If you've never seen a game at Century at night, it's pretty amazing with the mountains on both sides and the sunset. I don't know if it's picturesque up there, and it'll be fun. I've loved that football's won outside in Pocatello, and I think the atmosphere is great. And people just come to the games because there's football on Friday night outside. So it's a whole different beast now here in Pocatello with 3 football stadiums and all that going on, and I love it.
Yeah, it's a great time for sure. Well, before my internet totally craps out, let's finish it off. Thanks for tuning into the East Idaho Prepcast, everybody. For Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney, and we will see you next time on IdahoSports.com.